So I'm here as a securities regulator, as I'm working in the French Autorité des marchés financiers, the French Market Authority, and looking at what taking the global perspective means for us. For us, it's both a necessity and a challenge. First, it's a necessity. One of the main lessons from the financial crisis is indeed that the global financial system requires a global approach to regulation and supervision. Until recently, and here I come with my silos, regulatory frameworks, as well as the reach of regulators for regulatory and supervisory purposes, were closely related to their national territory. Everyone was satisfied with international standards, such as IOSCO's principles for regulation, which national regulators were supposed to rely on when drafting their own regulation. However, while we Europeans were experiencing the strengthening of the single financial market with the concept of passporting, of home-host sharing of responsibilities among regulators, nobody or nearly really cared about the overall consistency of the various regulatory frameworks around the globe. The crisis that burst in 2008 first made even more apparent that regulators could be faced with the need to bring solutions to problems on their own territory, while the root of the problem and part of the solution were not within their remit. And actually, independently from the subprime crisis, several other major problems in major firms contributed to that growing awareness since. Second, that crisis led head of states and governments to call for solutions to be implemented in G20 countries. Together, these factors led to a race to find solutions in order to quickly answer the legitimate demand from peoples and led to a kind of regulatory race. The result is what we see today. Policymakers did and are still doing their job to meet the G20 requirements of the Pittsburgh Summit. As far as regulators are concerned, they have devoted considerable resources to build rules, and so do international standard setters such as IOSCO. However, the global consistency of the various initiatives in the different countries and how the different regulatory silos communicate together are still a matter to be addressed, despite the role of the FSB in monitoring the implementation of the reforms in good time. This could appear as a secondary subject, but the discussion this morning and what we heard from the panelists earlier shows that it has an impact on the effectiveness of what we are putting in place globally. I think it forms part of what is required to create the right conditions for long-term growth in an environment where financial activities are more and more often conducted on a cross-border basis as far as wholesale activities are concerned, and more often so for retail clients. So I would like to focus my remarks on how regulators need to take a global perspective in the present situation and address the challenge they are faced with. It is a challenge because of the coexistence of these regulatory frameworks in silos, because we have differences in approach to cross-border regulation, and we mentioned this earlier this afternoon, with some regulators which authorize, regulate, and supervise with no exception. In addition, they may have an extensive understanding of what is within their perimeter. It also, I say they, but it's also sometimes Europe. The reasons for this need to be explained. Is it linked to protectionism? Is it a lack of understanding and confidence in other regulators' regulation and supervision? Taking a global approach is also a challenge because of the lack of granularity of international standards, and here I speak more about IOSCO standards, which are the ones we use. So taking a global perspective is a challenge, but there are reasons for hope. Without being too naive, I think we are at a crossroads. The very intense discussions around the regulation of OTC derivatives has shed light on the acuteness of the problem and on the need to find solutions. There is therefore now a growing awareness that more needs to be done to ensure that mechanisms are put in place to ensure communication between the regulatory silos. In addition, we do not start from scratch. As I was saying, there are various cross-border regulatory approaches. Some of us authorize, regulate, and supervise with no exception. Some register with various consequences in terms of regulation and supervision. Others apply mutual recognition or substituted compliance on the basis of an assessment of equivalence. And I would also like to mention that some regulators may grant unilateral recognition. We also have colleges of supervisors, which are now part of the landscape in the field of prudential supervision, but also for the supervision of credit rating agencies as well as CCPs. Among the cross-border tools that exist, I would also like to refer to the IOSCO report that was produced in 2010, which contained principles for supervisory cooperation, and which is being used by ESMA and our counterparts in third countries in the various areas where we need a memorandum of understanding for cooperation. So that was the case for AIFMD or for the supervision of swap dealers in the US, and I think it will be the case for MiFID one day. Today, as you mentioned, Anthony, IOSCO is working on a cross-border regulation and has set up a task force under the leadership of Ashley Alder from Hong Kong and Anne Léritier-Lachat from Switzerland. We are going to conduct a survey. So, of course, a survey is always, if it's just a survey, it will not go very far, but we are hopeful that we will do more than a survey. But at least we are going to take stock of how we all deal with cross-border issues. We will collect views and experiences on regulatory and supervisory cooperation. To cite two issues of particular interest, we will look at comparability. How do regulators implement a comparability assessment? And we will look at supervisory cooperation. Hopefully we will go further and we will also provide possible recommendations as to how to use the toolkit. Speaking about cross-border cooperation, I would also like to stress the considerable progress that has been recorded with the use of the IOSCO Memorandum of Understanding, which is multilateral and allows exchange of information among us to facilitate fighting cross-border wrongdoings. And while you were here when we built that in 2002. What we need now is to score a try and then unite our efforts in moving to action so that further progress is made to promote mutual recognition and move even further. How do we deal with promoting mutual recognition? What are the prerequisites? The first prerequisite is to have standards which are granular enough to achieve increased consistency. Then we need to agree on what global consistency means. It's not necessarily identical rules everywhere, but consistency in regulatory outcomes. A strong political commitment from jurisdictions for the effective implementation of commonly agreed standards is required. And we haven't been talking a lot about implementation. It's something which is key in Europe, and ESMA is playing a major role in this, and it is also key that progress is made at the international level. If we do not that, regulatory arbitrage will occur and risk will migrate between jurisdictions. We need the continuation of peer reviews and assessments of implementation, then by the FSB, IOSCO, I was mentioning ESMA, to detect inconsistencies and delays that could lead to regulatory arbitrage. Encouraging cross-border approaches which are based on mutual recognition is needed. This will be made easier with sufficiently granular standards which are implemented consistently and which will be more easily taken as a reference. And we see indeed that the EU legislation is moving and progressively evolving and incorporating this dimension of mutual recognition. The assessment of equivalence among jurisdictions should then be possible and at a multilateral level rather than through bilateral assessments. In short, I would say that mutual trust and cooperation are key for the success of financial regulatory reforms. As recently stated by the G20 in its communiqué after the St. Petersburg summit, regulators need to be able to defer to each other for the correct implementation of their respective rules. In describing these steps for further progress, it becomes clear that a stronger role needs to be played by international standard setters, IOSCO in particular has a key role to play, and I agree very much with what Andrew was saying on that. They have a key role to play in encouraging the definition of standards that can be more immediately used as benchmarks for operational purposes, and I think the recent report on margin requirements for non-centrally cleared is a good example of what we can do and which can be directly used among us if we do it. Conducting or helping the conduct of assessments for the purpose of equivalence on an objective basis is also a role for international standard setters. And even as David Wright, the Secretary General of IOSCO, was proposing recently, playing the role of a global arbiter with appropriate mechanism for dispute resolution. And that would be in the regulatory layer, I would say, compared to what Olivier Gerson was mentioning. Thank you very much.